Alrighty, this is my third try at this. I didn't go past 3 minutes, so that's cool. I usually have a rule that whatever I put up because it's gotten kind of beyond that now. But that was my benzo rule from back when I started withdrawing over a year ago. Was like whatever you put up, you put up. You gotta live with it. Um, unless it got so dark and depressing that I didn't want other benzo people to hear it that maybe can't deal with, you know, I understand the fragility of being in a messed up state due to a benzodiazepine withdrawal. So I didn't want people to hear me talking horrible stuff, which I've probably gone back on several times here recently. But honesty, being honesty, and me being sort of a captive to it. That's just I can't help it. Um, but anyways, uh, yeah, this is whew, it is 4:54 in the morning. I have been awake for approximately 6 hours ever since April 12th, when that person blew up my phone after midnight, screwed up my sleep schedule, and got me pissed off. And then the other dude come around and had a drug mule parked out in front of my house, or a drug dealer, whichever you want to call him. You know, different. A drug mule just conjures up images in people's heads of like, we'll call him a go-between. You know, there's the guy, and then there's the guy who delivers his little wares to various places. There's if they were in the show The Wire, they would be the little guys on the corners, the little peons. But anyways, this little drug peon guy was outside my house, and I got all homicidal and had horrible feelings of murder the same week. So, that just fucking blew my sleep schedule to hell. And several times I've had the unpleasant experience of waking up at dusk and thinking it's dawn, and like, oh, I slept through the night, awesome. And then, I realized that no, it's 8:46 p.m. It's not 5:30 a.m. When I look at the clock. It's 8:46, and I'm like, it doesn't look like that around here at 8:46 in the morning. The sun rises around 5:30. So, yeah, so that messes with me really hard. But the amount of videos that I did in April just was an absurd amount. Like, just absurd. It had to be at least 20. Felt like I was doing one like every day. I knew it wasn't every day, but I felt like it was every day. But yeah, I'm not going to be doing that for May. I'm going to occupy myself with other things and being a little bit more sensible about this, because there is such, if I may refer to myself as a good thing, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. Even oxygen, I think, too high levels of oxygen can mess with you. I'm not sure that's true or not. I don't know. I'd have to look that up, check that out. I am not a scientist, and nor do I play one on the computer. But, anyways, so yeah, I'm going to cut that down to a minimum. I just, my brain's a little, because I just spent like hours working on something. And then, you don't need to hear the technical details, and it would just bore you. But basically, I just wiped out like 4 hours worth of work because I deleted a bunch of files out of this program before exporting them from the program. That was pretty painless. But whew, yeah, I still have the files, but they're pieced together in little tiny increments, and I am not going back and piecing them together and finding out which is which when they're unnamed. When you're talking about a 55-minute chapter out of a book that you've read you've read some parts. The longest you've got through a part of it was 7 minutes. There's like, I don't know, maybe 75 parts to that 55 minutes, and I'm going to go through there when they're no, not happening. I just have to do it over, and I have to live with that. So that's part of the reason why I am perhaps not as cognitively sharp as I should be. Um, as far as news in the world of Steve, I talked to the landlord on a Friday, and I believe that you haven't heard about that yet. But man, what a sweetheart he is, you know. Um, he didn't even. My brother came in here and he cleaned this place up and uh, fixed the toilet for $27. Now I'm pretty sure there's no plumber in the world, unless you're giving them blowjobs or something, that will fix anything for $27, right? So I told him, it cost my brother $27 to fix the toilet, but I did not authorize him to buy the part to do it, and neither did you authorize me to have it done by him, so I'm not going to hold you accountable for that. And then I left a pause. The pause meaning, but if you are a decent person, you will take $27 off of my rent because I just saved you about $75. No, not one thin dime came my way. His face never even changed expression. This greedy motherfucking Christian pretending asshole. I just hate people like that, man. If you're gonna be a Christian, be a fucking Christian. Be charitable. Don't just go around pretending and watching your language and then fucking people in. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. Starting to feel very angry. But yeah, that really made me mad because it's like yeah, it wasn't authorized, but I just saved you a bunch of money. How about just taking just the parts? Not even the labor, not even my brother's labor, but just take the parts off of, that's why I left that up to him. Because I said, I didn't authorize him to buy the part, and I didn't talk to you ahead of time about it. But the toilet was fixed for $27. And then I just left a pause, and he just looked at me with those blank eyes, like a doll's eyes. All these all these people without thought to the welfare of other human beings and morality and decency walking the world. Is small wonder that there are so many misanthropes like me walking around. Like, this dude has so many properties and is so goddamn rich, and he knows that I am on a fixed income. And I even told him before that I just got $200 cut off of my income. Well, she was like, huh, why did they do that? And he did his fake sympathy thing or whatever. But man, people. Yeah. It always reminds me of the Ziggy comic. And I don't like comic strips and shit like that, but I'll never forget this. So I used to read them when I was a little kid. I'd go to the newspaper. There's back in the days when they had newspapers. I don't even know if there still are newspapers. But you go to the comic strips, and there was a Ziggy. And this one planet is complaining to the other planet, and you can tell it's Earth. And there's another planet there, and the planet says something like, people? Really? Are they contagious? That's how I feel about the human race sometimes. And people like that make me feel that way about that. $27 to that guy is like a nickel to anybody else. But $27 to me is $27. I mean, it's a big. That guy has so many properties that he manages, and I used to keep track of the amount of trucks he had. I think he sold one of them, but he used to have like 3 trucks that were between $50,000 and $100,000 trucks, and he didn't even thank me for fixing the toilet. Come to think of it, because if he said thank you, that would mean that I did something for him, and that means that maybe he should do something for me and reimburse me. I'm spending way too much time on this toilet thing. Nobody could possibly find this as interesting as this particular aggravated individual finds it at this moment. Because the more I think about it, the more I hate the guy. And, I'm keeping on the hush hush about the roaches problem because I know they're coming from the people upstairs. I know I've seen most of them right here in my bedroom, and I know it's because there's an 8-foot hole in my wall that the dude never fixed, and they're just coming down here. Now, I haven't, I saw one yesterday. I haven't seen any today. If you can call this a day. I don't have days anymore. But I have seen youngins, cute little young roaches running around, so they have reproduced. And all the affordable roach motels I bought were from California, and they're taking their sweet time getting here. Meanwhile, these motherfuckers are reproducing. There's no telling how many are in the walls or how many those people upstairs brought in. And I explained to the landlord, it's like I've had experience with roaches. I know how they work, and I explained to him the whole situation about, I've had 3 different sources tell me that there were 8 people living on there. And I was like, how many people are on the lease? And he's like, just Michelle. Stark Metropolitan Housing is paying for just one person to live up there, but I've had 3 different people tell me that there's 8 people. He says, well, I could go up and talk to him about it right now. And I'm like, don't do that. It's like, I have a loud voice. They can hear us talking. The walls are thin. That's one of my complaints about living here. Yeah, go finger me out to a bunch of people that I don't fucking finger. Ugh, that was a horrible turn of phrase. Go point the finger at me to a bunch of people that I don't even know. And, I've seen a couple of them, and they have some very hard-looking faces. Like, they've been swimming in a septic river of chemicals their whole fucking life. And they, the kind of chemicals that eat away at your conscience. I'm not talking about, like, the toxic Avenger type chemicals. I'm talking about chemicals. And I'm like, talk to him about it later. Do not talk to him about it now, directly after leaving my apartment. I was like, no, I don't want you to do that because the only way I can defend myself in the condition that I'm in is through lethal force. And I don't know who we're dealing with because we don't know who's living up there. God, you are, oh, that guy is such a, I bet you he's not even that bad of a guy. He's just a complete moron with a greedy streak. Where's my little evil face that I can put up like I did on my other video? That's how I feel right now. But yeah, so yeah, I don't remember what else I talked to that guy about. My mind's starting to go a little bit, yeah, starting to see like a little crimson-hued tinge on things. Cause I get the fucking temper, man. I don't know how I hold my temper with this guy. And, I've been nice enough to him, but I haven't gone and, confronted all the other people. Like, we got roaches in the building. If I told that guy over there, he would fucking freak out. Because I think I can contain the problem here. But this also with this landlord, he's one of them guys like, well, I have a specific way of doing things. And since I am a good judge of character and so goddamn smart and everything, I'll just, I won't listen to anything you have to say. Type of dude. So I'm like, no, I don't want any poisons sprayed in my house. I've already have bad health. No poisons. He's like, well, they got this stuff that's like peanut butter. It's poison, but you can. I was like, no, I don't care if it's like contained and it looks like peanut butter and it comes out of a tube and you put it in your house. I'm like, we can do this without poisons. I was like, I knew people that had way serious roach problems that got rid of roaches with roach motels. And, if I don't mean this to be an advertisement, and I could probably get an endorsement from roach motels for what I'm about to say, but they seem to be the most effective thing. So I've tried boric acid. I've had idiots try poison. everything but the whole tent over the building fumigation, which is what this stupid son of a bitch landlord is facing if, you know, if I don't get a handle on this by just like not keeping track of what's going on in the building. I don't understand. This was a nice place to live. I do not understand why he bought this building and decided to turn it into a slum. No idea. No idea. But once he got the building and bought it, because it was being managed by a lawyer at one point. It was being managed by that guy that let the plumbers in my house. It was being managed by a lot of different people before it went to auction. This went on for a long time. And then he bought the building and he was okay at first. And I'm like, wow, I hit the jackpot. This guy's a nice guy and he seems like a good landlord. But then for some reason he decided to turn this into a low income type neighborhood slum, rent to anybody, any government agency, anybody with a record. You know the history of the people that lived here. And in case you don't, it's all about drugs, domestic violence, disrespectful people, loud people, hood people, just people that are not made, just people basically that you wouldn't want living in your house. All this is a big house sectioned off into 4 apartment buildings. For whatever reason, when this guy bought this place, he just wanted to turn it into a slum type building. This is like low rent. Just because the rent is relatively affordable here, and I think it's not even that crazy, it doesn't mean that you can't screen people. It doesn't mean you have to take like the first applicant that comes along. You don't have to take people with criminal records or people that are former and current breaking and entering artists. You don't have to rent to any motherfucker that comes. Ugh. Why did I even get myself angry like this? But no. Anyways, back to the book thing. Is like I'm reading this book just I'm assuming somebody will enjoy The Last Algonquin because that's a novel, that's entertainment. This is like a textbook. It has sentences that are longer than the largest elephant's penis in it. It's ridiculous. And it has like polysyllabic nightmare words linked together in phrases. So it's more or less quite challenging, and it's good practice. For me to read this book. Also, it's my dude, Eric Fromm. That's my boy. And this is like his most important work, Escape from Freedom, that I just wiped out the first 2 chapters, which are not short. But I accidentally wiped them out because I threw their supporting files into the recycle bin before exporting them from the program. And I was working on chapter 3. I was smart enough somehow to export that one out. So I got like half a chapter because it was a 2-part chapter that's super long. But anyways, this will be good practice for me if I want to be a narrator. And it also will help me with like my wind because these sentences are so long that I can feel myself growing older waiting for that period to come. It's like, when will this fucking sentence end? And then it's like, I know the guy's German and it's translated into English or whatever. I don't think it's written in English. But use a goddamn comma once in a while, for the love of God, please. So I have to like go back and I'm like, I'm not understanding the sentence. If I don't understand the sentence, you're probably not going to understand the sentence, or not you specifically, but whatever 3 or 4 people are actually going to check the book out or like read it for their college course or whatever. If I don't get the sentence, they're not going to get the sentence. There's like certain places where you need a pause here, but there's no pause to make the sentence make sense. So in that way, it's challenging. And I'm also not, like with the novels, and I'm sure this is boring as shit to people. I suddenly feel quite boring. But with the novels, I'm practicing them. I'm actually just running through them. I'm trying to make it entertaining, and I'm like, no, no, I'm reading it several times sometimes before I actually come up with a finished product. This, I'm more or less just reading it, and then I screw up, or then I have to put in the commas for this guy, and then I'll go back. So it's just like a one take type of thing. And more or less, it's a practice for me to, it's a breathing exercise, because we're talking about complex sentences that may have as many as 50 words in them. So you have to know when to exhale and inhale, and it's practice. Anyway, just that's just boring talk. That's like me talking about golf to somebody that's not particularly interested in golf. Most likely, if you're not interested. And why do I have my glasses on? I do not need to see me. I know what I look like. Yeah, but I'm aggravated. I got to thinking about that. My landlord, there's a word for that. Penurious. It means cheaper than a motherfucker. But man, oh, man alive. You can't compensate me $27 for saving you $100 with a plumber. I should have showed him the toilet too, man. He did a beautiful job on it. I mean, clean it, cleaned it for one thing, but I mean, it's in perfect working order. And, but no, some people are just like that. And he has no reason to be like that, unless he inherited that from his father. Like, I have my one friend, which I have very few friends, of course, but I have my one friend, and my cop buddy, he's older than me, and his dad lived through the Great Depression, and he just sort of inherited that penuriousness. If that is a word, that cheapness, that pinching them pennies, the throwing around nickels like they were manhole covers type attitude about things. He just kind of inherited that. He's the guy that we were on a fishing trip, and this is the truth, so he won't have any problem with me telling y'all the truth. But he's like, man, I'm hungry. And he's like, I want to stop at this Burger King. I got a coupon. And he went in there, and they wouldn't take his coupon, so he come out empty-handed. And because they wouldn't take his coupon, this guy who makes six figures a year comes out with no sandwich. And we got about 35 or 40 minutes left to drive home from our fishing trip. And he says, I'll just wait and eat when I get home. So that's the only thing I can figure with this guy is like, he's only 41 though. So I don't know if he inherited that from his dad or that cheapness or whatever that is. But or maybe he's just dumb and he didn't think, I just saved you a whole shit load of money. Because that's coming out of my pocket, My brother's going to, I would do it anyway, but he was like, yeah, I bought that part, but I'd expect to be reimbursed for it. And I didn't say, well, like, nobody asked you to buy the part. I was like, just happy to have the toilet fixed. But here's an interesting sidebar to that, which is, I just kind of like gave up, like turning the toilet off. I just like would let it run, for a long time. Because it wasn't a flapper problem, but the toilet would just keep running. You know what I mean? The water would just keep running and running. And then there's all these people living upstairs. So, that's one thing the landlord said. He said the water bill went through the roof, so that's affecting his money. So that's going to get him on the case, which I did not do that on purpose. I was just tired of turning on and turning off with my walking troubles, turning on and turning off the water every time I used the toilet. Which is, if you're just one dude, that's not a big deal. But if you have a bad leg, you don't want to do that. So that kind of, I don't know how much water I cost him or whatever, but he's paying the water bill. And there's 8 people up there taking showers instead of the one person. So, um, that got his attention. So that's going to work in my favor. That's 24 minutes that I've been talking. What? Oh, today I have to make my appointment to go into the physical therapist to get evaluated to see what kind of scooter they're going to give me, or just to see if I'm eligible for it. Probably that's probably like the final step in eligibility is you get your doctor to sign a prescription saying that you might need something like this, or that you need some sort of motorized type transportation to get around because your legs are fucked up. And then you have somebody come to your house that measures your house to see if it'll work. And all she did was measure the doorways and measure the pathways and whatnot, and talk to me a little bit about it. But the real important step, I think, is that appointment that I got to make today to see a physical therapist. And she was saying they still could decide um, that you need like a motorized wheelchair, which, like I've said in the other video, I don't like the thought of that at all. And it's like, I'll just roll with it though. You know, I'm like, okay. But then I'm going to out of pocket buy what I want, what I need. How am I going to do my grocery shopping down a hill like this in a freaking motorized wheelchair? I don't even know what a motorized wheelchair looks like, if it has a front to it. But the idea of me, like, I don't know, hitting a rock, screwing up and hitting a curb and then dumping myself face first onto like asphalt, not appealing. I've actually done that before. Didn't enjoy it. So, with a scooter, you got something in front of you. You have a brake. It's it's different. That's the whole point of me getting this. And like, I got a situation now where like, okay, what do I do about, because I got to rearrange my whole life now, because of this leg situation. So I have to, and because of the people in my life in this town situation, because I'm just like done with all of them, because they're just making this harder on me. So like, it's gonna be lonely, but I'm kind of used to being a loner anyway. But after people fuck you over for so long, you just kind of get tired of it. And so like I told my aunt, which is really the only person in the city that I don't really have a problem with. I told her like she'd call me anytime she wants. And but she's not going to. She hates talking on the phone, so that's I'm not going to have anybody in the city. And hopefully they will give me what I need after I go to the physical therapy thing, and then I can start like selling my shit and making enough moving money to get the fuck out of here. Just leave the city altogether and move somewhere else. Now I don't get along with a lot of my family. Like I love my brother, but I would we if we saw too much of each other, man, it wouldn't be good. My brother that fixed the toilet and whatnot. He and I can't tell you that. I wish I could. But yeah, he grew up in the same nut farm that I grew up in, so he's gonna have his little quirks about him, let's say. As far as like other family that I got my sister who decided to cut me off at the knees on 12/27/17. I have an estranged nephew that lives, I don't know, 30 miles from here. I don't have much family or friends or anything like that. So it's going to be like, I'm going to be living a pretty lonely existence, which I'm kind of used to anyway. That's why I try to make myself such good company. And I'm so good at keeping myself amused. But as far as like the knee and the operation thing, I'm not exactly sure where to head with that next. Like I could put in phone calls today to Tri-County Orthopedics, because I think they accidentally faxed me my own medical records, which would be par for the course for me. but maybe they didn't. But I might call them up, and I was like, yeah, I called last week. I was wondering if you faxed my records to Dr. Scorsella, and I could talk to my own doctor and say, did you fax the MRI? You know, I could just fact check what I did last week to make sure. You know, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous to suffer with something like this for 4 years when you and it's different if like I had a healthy body, but I have a disease that impairs walking already, and they're just letting me have a Baker cyst and now a blood clot in my knee and not cutting it open and fixing it. And meanwhile, I'm getting weaker and I'm falling down more and more. And like I said, that fall in the hallway, in the, you can call it a hallway, I guess, in the doorway to my bedroom where I slammed my shin against the door jamb and I threw my elbow out and aggravated my rotator cuff thing. Much worse than I thought at first. Sometimes shit like that, it takes a while to sink in. And yeah, the bump on my knee, it went down. I just have like a, I don't know, like a healing over laceration about like that, where it split my leg open. So hey, the sooner that I get my appointment into the therapist to determine whether I need a scooter, and if I'm still all marked up and bruised up and got all these marks all over my legs and stuff, and am a big mess, maybe that will help me out. Why these occasionally flashes of light keep happening if they're showing up on camera, I don't know. Whether there's some sort of visual hallucination on my part, I don't know. But this is what happens when you don't sleep regular hours. You begin to doubt your own sanity. Now, doubting my sanity is a little different than doubting other people's sanity, because I've always been a little bit out there. But I am in touch with reality, but I've always had a different viewpoint and a different way of looking at things than other people. So, you know, anybody that spends their early 20s, instead of chasing pussy as a heterosexual male, and is more interested in studying the English language and philosophy and the Bible and searching for God and all that other stuff, they have issues. they're not quite right. The normal way that a person that thinks like that would do, you know, is if they're what would have happened ordinarily if I would have been healthy is I would have been in college and I would have got to do all those things while I was trying to chase pussy. But the way it turned out for me was a little different. But yeah, I've always been different. So, you know, I've always been I've always been an octagonal peg, not even a square peg trying to fit. Does that even make any sense? I don't know. So it's always been like that. Not my fault, you know. Spinal tumor at the age of 14, growing inside me, removed at 16, spinal reconstruction at 18, finding out you have CRPS for sure before the age of 20. Changes a person. But right now I'm just talking to be talking like I usually do. I think I reported all salient news of the day. I mean, I just would love to figure out how to get my circadian rhythms back to where I can. The birds are chirping outside right now. It is 5:27. They're heralding a new day. Like if I won't do it, but if I turn off the light, you wouldn't be able to see it. But let's do an experiment. Nope, it's just dark. But it's not pitch dark. You can still kind of see me. That's because dawn is breaking around here. It's 5:27. So I turn this back on to low. Instead of like the 2 o'clock bar lighting that we had a minute ago. But yeah, that's what I want to do. Is I want to wake up at this time. I do not want to have been awake for 6 to 7 hours, and that's actually pretty good. So maybe I can stay up a little later each day and work it around, and try. I don't know. I know one thing is like the chemical manipulation thing. It doesn't seem to work with circadian rhythms. I don't know why that is. Not for me anyway. I can take like sleeping pills and stuff say I got real sleepy at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, oh fuck. And then I woke up at 10 p.m. and I said, well, I need to straighten my sleeping schedule out. So I'm going to take these here sleeping pills or these Valium or these Doxepin or whatever. And then, I'm going to sleep some more, which will fortify me for the next day. No, I will get sleepy again at 3 p.m. So there's only one way to seems to fix that, and that's to stay up a little later each day until your rhythm gets back into normal. So today I'm going to shoot for I don't know. Well, I'm not, maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon, staying awake. I don't know. That seems to be very important for my sanity, what little I have. But yeah, I just don't understand, maybe I'm still running into medical people who don't know what CRPS is, even after you say the phrase complex regional pain syndrome. They still don't know what it is, because I've gone to a lot of appointments lately. So maybe they do not understand that by letting this thing go on with my right leg, which is my good leg, you are fucking destroying my left leg, because they work in tandem together. And by not walking, you're also messing up my metabolism and my heart, and you're like threatening my life by not cutting my fucking knee. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I should explain it that way to them. But doctors don't listen, man. We went to school for 12 years, son. How many years did you go to school? We went to medical school. Seems pretty apparent what's going on with me is if I don't get this knee fixed, I ain't gonna be able to walk. If I ain't gonna be able to walk, I ain't gonna be here. Cause somebody that grew up in the household I grew up, they don't cotton to dependency very well. Itchy nose. I am not doing Samantha on Bewitched. Elizabeth Montgomery, for any of you old timers that may be watching this or fans of Nick at Night, if there is still such a thing. I don't know. I don't watch TV, so I don't know. But yeah, this is just a travesty. But that thing hurts like a motherfucker now. After I fell, just not even moving, which before I would have to move it to move the joint even in bed if I did this. I get the pain and move my leg back. I get the pain. It's like when I walk on it, get the pain. But yeah, that's the thing about having the type of body where you can step on a tack and just think it's another pain that's just part of your natural existence, and just walk around on a tack and then know that you have a tack in your foot by seeing a trail of blood across the floor. Is like when you take a fall like that, you don't really know how bad you hurt yourself. But it turns out I did a real good job on myself and put myself in much more pain. But surprisingly, I'm still able to concentrate on reading my Escape from Freedom book, which I think most people can understand, actually. Even though, like I said, it has sentences in it longer than an elephant's dick, you can still understand it. And that's what I love about that particular philosopher, that even though no philosopher is going to boil things down to the essence completely, because they just don't do that. I've never met a guy that did that. in the, by met, I mean like met him in the library, like where like, oh, you're gonna make this shit simple, you're gonna boil this down to its essence. But this guy, at least for me, is like, I've read other philosophers, but I was like, yeah, okay, this guy, not only can he boil things down to an essence in a better way than other philosophers, but he's fucking hitting the nail on the head. Like, this is the truth. This is the way things are. This is the way people are. And also he's very objective. Like, he doesn't put in his own hopes and dreams, and like Schopenhauer, I think, is famous for being pessimistic. Nietzsche with it, which with his God is dead, which is a widely misunderstood like um, quote, you know, and they all got their like, they let their personalities like leak into whatever it is they're writing. This guy doesn't, and I think that's another difference between Fromm and other dudes that makes him interesting, or makes him particularly uh, relatable to me. It's like, I don't need to know, I don't need your opinions or your ideas. Just, lay the shit out for me. Just give it to me straight, doctor. I can take it. That's 41 minutes of bullshit, and I'm tired now. I don't know if I should even attempt to read, because I'm tired because I read for like 4 hours and then erased all my work. So, I might drink another cup of coffee. I have backup coffee. The problem is the backup coffee is like, I don't know how old. It could be years old, but it's it was such a it was so old that I would forget it was there. It would be like on the counter. It's a little tiny container, like one of them little I don't know how many ounces are in them, like 12 ounces or whatever. But it's just some cheapo brand that somebody bought me, McDaniels or something like that. But I drink Folgers, but I would forget it was even there, so I would go without coffee and forget it was there. Well, I remembered it was there, and I was drinking it. I smelled it, and I'm like, I don't know. Does coffee get stale? Does coffee get poisonous? I mean, how old is this coffee? But I drank some of it, and unless it's giving me like some sort of trip and making, maybe I'm speaking complete gibberish right now and don't even know it and think I'm making sense. It seems like it's okay, so I think I might drink another cup of it, and you know, feed my cat, which I've only seen. The cat that's actually my cat that I'm responsible for. I'm no longer responsible for the ghost cat, because he's got somebody else that took care of him for like 3 months. He can go eat off of that dude. I'll give him food if he's around, but if he ain't around, I ain't looking for him to feed him. But I haven't seen White Paws, which is sounds like an Indian name, but that's the Indian name for the cat that is the guy that I like, that I've never even touched or petted, that I was feeding. I haven't seen him around. I've just seen the only cat that I'm responsible for, which is the cat that I refer to as Darkness. It's actually from the Rick James skit on Dave Chappelle, where I think it was Rick James referred to Charlie Murphy as Darkness. But I refer to that cat as Darkness. If he has a name, which I don't usually bother naming cats at all, I call him Darkness sometimes. Just like, just like I call the one cat OCD sometimes, because he's got an obsessive compulsive trait where, like, anytime I'm angry with him or have to get physical with him, he immediately washes compulsively, like, I'm a good cat, I'm a good cat, I'm a good cat, I'm clean, look how clean I am. He's the only long-haired cat I've ever seen that's never had a snarl or whatever you call it, matted fur or anything. Never. So I call him OCD, and then that's the ghost cat now. He's officially the ghost cat. Darkness will be out there waiting for me though, and I will get up off of here and I will go give him his favorite food, which is a clam and chicken, Friskies clam and chicken in a green can. Which I think he would fight a raccoon for that food. I think he would. He loves that shit. So that will give me some pleasure, lowering that out to him and talking to him. I don't get to pet him. He hasn't been asking to come in, and I just live in the bedroom because of the upstairs being what it was. I don't know if you noticed that or not, or if that got picked up when I was sitting in the chair in the living room, but you could actually hear stomping around in the background. At least I could, But I have an external microphone, not microphone, but an external speaker hooked up that maybe makes a difference. I don't know. But I was like, I'd occasionally be looking upstairs when I was hearing it and stuff while I was talking. On the video where I was sitting in the living room talking about London after midnight and whatnot. But yeah, I wouldn't mind him coming in and hanging out for a while. But he hasn't been asking to come in, and I'm never in there to see if he's asking to come in. I'll check the forecast. I'll have to start checking the weather forecast around here because he doesn't like rain. So he'll ask on days when it's rainy to come in sometimes. So I'll have to be on the alert for him. But I mostly live in my prison cell. And now that these people upstairs and me have been costing my pseudo-Christian landlord, something might get done about that. I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it. He's just too lazy and he's too rich. He has properties in 3 different cities. And his business is so old that he's 41 years old. I think, 41 years old. And he inherited the business from his father. And whose name is Bob, who is the guy that I told to put gloves on when he was rooting through the junkies' garbage in the hallway. But so they've been gradually buying up properties and expanding this rental business they've had for probably as much as 6 decades. So there's no telling how many properties they've had. I've asked him like which he's got some in this city, 3 different cities, but if he's not going to tell me like, I'm not going to ask him like exactly how much money do you make off of this business, and like I already know that he's made a killing off of this house that I live in now. But I mean, I'm not going to ask him how many properties he actually has. I know he rents individual houses because I discussed that when I was like Stampy, when Stampy first moved in there. I was like, I'd like to rent a house or something. He's like, well, I got houses to rent, and I'm like, I don't think I can afford a house, but I'll tell you what, if and I'm not in any condition to move, which I shouldn't have never said, but I said I would have rented that place out upstairs. I had enough money to do it. And what price could you put on peace of mind and quiet when you are ill and in pain and you don't want to hear a bunch of fucking racket? How many people would pay $450 just for a little peace and quiet? How many people pay that with a couple zeros added on the end, or even 1 0, like for a vacation time, just to get a little peace of quiet, just to get away from their normal life? Or how many rich people like have $450,000 houses off like in remote areas? I remember there was I don't think I could show you any pictures from it, but I stayed in a condominium that was on the beach that this doctor, he never lived in it. He just kept it when he couldn't stand being a doctor anymore, so he could go live in this condominium on the beach. And I got to stay there because I guess one of my relatives was like a nurse of his that he trusted, and he would let her stay there periodically and said that she could invite a couple of people, and I was one of those couple of people, but it was more like 10 people. But I remember sitting out on the deck looking at the ocean, looking at the Atlantic Ocean in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and watching those waves roll in and being like, what a way to start the day. Come out, the weather is freaking beautiful, drink your coffee. I mean, conversation becomes superfluous at that point. You just sit there and watch the waves and sit with somebody, sip your coffee, and just watch the waves roll in. Yeah. Well, I think I'll leave you with that image because it's a beautiful one. It's one that somebody who lives on now $1,400 a month to have that experience just for a couple of weeks. I was lucky. Goodbye.